Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone. The story of the Black Natchez Warriors is a powerful and often overlooked chapter in the history of resistance against colonial oppression in North America. It is a tale of strength, defiance, and survival, set against the backdrop of French imperial expansion in the early 18th century. The Natchez people, a sophisticated and resilient indigenous nation of the lower Mississippi Valley, found themselves entangled in a fierce struggle to protect their lands and sovereignty from European encroachment. But what sets this story apart is the integral role played by enslaved Africans, who not only fought alongside the Natchez, but also infused the resistance with their own indomitable spirit of rebellion against tyranny. This alliance of indigenous warriors and black rebels forged a unique and formidable front against one of the most powerful colonial forces of the era, leaving an enduring legacy of courage and defiance that continues to inspire generations. The Natchez were among the most formidable indigenous nations of the southeastern woodlands, known for their complex social structures, impressive earthen mounds, and their fierce warrior culture. Their strategic position along the Mississippi River made them a key player in the geopolitics of early colonial America, and they initially navigated relationships with European traders and settlers with caution and diplomacy. However, as French ambitions grew and colonization intensified, the Natchez found themselves facing relentless pressure to cede their lands and submit to foreign rule. At the same time, thousands of Africans were being forcibly brought to the region to labor under brutal conditions in the burgeoning French colony of Louisiana. These enslaved men and women carried with them memories of resistance from their homelands, knowledge of guerrilla warfare, and an unyielding desire for freedom. When the opportunity arose, they found common cause with the Natchez, who were fighting their own battle against colonial domination. Together, these two oppressed peoples formed an alliance that would shake the foundations of French Louisiana and leave an indelible mark on the history of American resistance movements. The tale of the Black Natchez Warriors is not merely one of battle and bloodshed. It is also a testament to the power of unity and the shared struggles of marginalized communities. It is a story that challenges the traditional narratives of colonial history and highlights the agency and heroism of those who refuse to be subjugated. To understand this extraordinary episode, one must delve into the origins of the Natchez people, the dynamics of French colonial rule, the brutal conditions of slavery in Louisiana, and the explosive moment when these forces converged to ignite one of the most significant uprisings in early American history. Before the arrival of European colonists, the Natchez civilization thrived for centuries in what is now Mississippi and Louisiana. They were the last known mound-building culture in the region, descending from the great Mississippian civilizations that had once dominated the southeastern United States. Their society was highly organized, with a ruling class led by a paramount chief known as the Great Sun, who was believed to be a divine figure. The Natchez maintained a complex system of governance, religion, and trade, making them a formidable presence in the lower Mississippi Valley. French explorers and traders first made contact with the Natchez in the late 17th century, and for a time relations between the two groups remained relatively stable. The French sought to establish a foothold in the region and viewed the Natchez as potential allies or trading partners. However, as more French settlers arrived, their hunger for land intensified and tensions began to rise. The French governor of Louisiana, Jean-Baptiste Le Moyne de Bienville, attempted to force the Natchez into submission, demanding land concessions and military loyalty. The Natchez, proud and fiercely independent, resisted these demands, and skirmishes between the two groups became increasingly common. At the heart of this growing conflict was Fort Rosalie, a French military outpost established near present-day Natchez, Mississippi. The fort symbolized the encroachment of European power into Natchez territory, and it quickly became a flashpoint for resistance. The French, determined to consolidate their control, began imposing harsh demands on the Natchez people, seizing their land, violating their traditions, and exacting severe punishments for any perceived insubordination. As the French expanded their colonial presence in Louisiana, they also increased their reliance on enslaved African labor. By the early 18th century, thousands of Africans had been brought to the colony to work on plantations, in households, and in military operations. The conditions of slavery in Louisiana were exceptionally brutal, characterized by relentless labor, physical punishment, and the constant threat of being sold or separated from family members. But despite these hardships, enslaved Africans in Louisiana found ways to resist.
Some ran away to establish maroon communities in the swamps and forests, while others engaged in covert acts of sabotage or armed rebellion. Many retained elements of their African heritage, including spiritual practices, music, and combat techniques, which would later prove invaluable in their struggles against their oppressors. A significant number of enslaved Africans were familiar with warfare, having been taken from regions where military conflicts were common. Some had been warriors or soldiers in their homelands, skilled in the use of weapons and guerrilla tactics. When the Natchez began organizing for a full-scale rebellion against the French, they found willing and capable allies among the enslaved population. Many Africans saw in the Natchez uprising an opportunity to strike a blow against their own oppressors and to forge a path toward freedom. The tipping point came in 1729, when the French, under Governor Etienne Purrier, demanded that the Natchez surrender even more land for French settlers. The demand was an outrage to the Natchez, who saw it as a direct assault on their sovereignty and way of life. Secret councils were held, alliances were forged, and a plan was set in motion to strike back against the French in a decisive and coordinated attack. On November 28, 1729, the Natchez launched a devastating assault on Fort Rosalie, catching the French completely off guard. In a single day, they annihilated nearly the entire French garrison, killing over 230 settlers and soldiers. Among those fighting were enslaved Africans who had seized the moment to rise against their masters. Some of these warriors had already been in communication with the Natchez, and when the attack began, they took up arms and fought with ferocity, knowing that victory could mean their liberation. The French were stunned by the scale and success of the uprising. For weeks, the Natchez and their black allies held the region, turning the tables on their colonial oppressors. However, the French were determined to regain control and launched a brutal counteroffensive. They recruited Choctaw warriors, long-standing rivals of the Natchez, to aid in their fight, and over the following months, they waged a merciless campaign to crush the rebellion. Though the rebellion was ultimately suppressed, the Black Natchez Warriors left an enduring legacy of resistance. Their courage in battle demonstrated that the forces of colonialism and slavery were not invincible, and their actions inspired future uprisings among both indigenous and African-descended peoples. Many survivors of the rebellion fled to Spanish territories or joined maroon communities, continuing the fight for freedom in new ways. The story of the Black Natchez Warriors is a vital piece of American history that deserves greater recognition. It is a testament to the power of unity in the face of oppression, and a reminder that the struggle for freedom has deep and interconnected roots. Their fight was not in vain, for it laid the groundwork for future generations to continue resisting, surviving, and ultimately shaping a world in which their descendants could stand tall in the face of history.